1309. After a 17-year reign, Raden Wijaya, the man that founded the kingdom of Majapahit, dies. His kingdom passes to his son, along with his troubles. Before his death, Raden Wijaya had devoted most of his reign to diplomacy, attempting to sustain his father-in-law's network of vassal states. But instead of relying on military force like his father-in-law, Wijaya's primary tool was marriage. Unlike the Christian kings of Europe, Hindu-Buddhist monarchs like Wijaya could marry many times to reinforce their web of alliances. But that actually made things more complicated, if you can believe that. Having many wives meant keeping a delicate balance of which wife had the highest status, lest he offend one of his many family members/political allies. Marriage is already hard, and it gets even harder when you have half a dozen wives and your in-laws all have armies. And unfortunately, Wijaya broke the cardinal rule of polygamous marriage alliances. He promoted a consort to the position of primary wife, over the heads of other higher status wives, and named their youngest son, Jaya Nagara, as his successor. Worse than that, it was a Sumatran princess, meaning their heir would not be fully Javanese. In the Indonesian archipelago, where water separated Majapahit from its vassal states and mountains naturally divided islands into fiefdoms, it was always tempting for local lords to declare independence. And now, with Wijaya's insult, they had a reason. Wijaya spent the rest of his reign putting down rebellions, and left his son a kingdom that was, essentially, primed to revolt against this partially foreign heir. So when Jaya Nagara ascended the throne, he tried to emphasize Majapahit's strength and his lineage. He took a royal name, we're ignoring those for simplicity by the way, that emphasized Majapahit's spiritual ties to India. He buried his father and grandfather in imposing funerary temples dedicated to Shiva. And 5 years into his reign, he crushed his first rebellion. But here's the thing about Jaya Nagara. He was really good at some aspects of kingship. He was handsome, charming, and had a talent for throwing big drunken parties. He was good at building monuments. And most of all, he was good at bringing the prettiest women in Majapahit to marry him and serve as attendants. And you know, all that stuff is part of Javanese kingship. It was important to overawe people with splendor and wealth, and he had that part of the job on lockdown. It was all the other stuff he wasn't so great at. You know, stuff like ruling, politics, diplomacy, war. We don't have a lot of stories where he excels here, or really any stories about him doing much of anything. Sure, he put down his first rebellion, but we don't even know whether he was personally involved or not. So 10 years into his reign, when yet another rebellion forced him to flee from the capital, it looked like Majapahit's time was up. The king was on the run with only 25 royal bodyguards, his power broken. At camp that night, he saw whispers passing between the guards. Why should we continue to protect this weak king? Are we to die for him? Could we not just turn him over? Their loyalty was beginning to curdle. Just then, the captain of the guards stepped in. This was a man who inspired tremendous respect and confidence among his men, something Jaya Nagara never managed. In fact, this man was so mighty that his name literally meant Elephant General. With a few words, the captain crushed the mutterings, and the next morning he brought the king to a remote village to hide in exile. This was the first action of a man who defined the kingdom of Majapahit. A man who will become so associated with Javanese power politics that even in the 20th century, politicians would model themselves after him. Gajah Mada, the Elephant General. And Gajah Mada refused to let the dynasty fall. Leaving the king with trusted officers, he returned to the capital. He filtered through the market, gauging the mood of the populace. Afterward, he entered the palace and mixed with the would-be revolutionaries. He spread rumors that the king was dead, the lineage of Wijaya snuffed out. And each time he told the story, he gauged the reaction from his audience. He remembered who grieved and who celebrated. Those that celebrated were the first ones Mada executed when his counter-revolutionaries regained the capital. With just 25 men at his command and no resources to speak of, Gajah had rallied the people and reinstalled a monarch. And that's when Jayanagara discovered something else he was good at: delegating. In thanks for his service, he promoted Mata to